Okay, I'm going to practice the speech in 3, 2, 1. So, welcome, here's my cards. Welcome. Just had to check my cards. Hi, I'm Nigel, the emotional father of the bride. Though looking around today, I'm clearly not the only one. Along with my wife, Barbara, we're so glad you managed to navigate the world's disruptions to be here today. The turnout shows just how much Megan and Jay are truly loved. I'm getting cramp. Megan, today is simply sheer bliss. When Megan was a little girl, we'd share a cup of hot soup on a cold day, look at each other and say, sheer bliss. And that's exactly how today feels. Meg, you haven't just planned a wedding, you've curated a masterpiece. Seeing you balance life and your career and this level of perfection, I've got to hold a microphone as well, is awe-inspiring. I know you've had the support from Julia and the team, and obviously Jay, and Jay's mum, Bev, and Barbara, but you have been the driving force. We all know where those organizational skills and that inner strength come from. Barbara, my wife, you're a fabulous wife, fabulous mother, and you're the heart of the family. You've faced incredibly tough times recently, and your grace has been humbling. You're a far better person than I am, and from you, that's what Megan, and it's from you, that Megan got her grounding, her moral compass, and her capacity of love. I won't mention what she got from me. I'm hoping at the end, everyone here, you all help me to continue a family tradition. Can I count on your support? We'll get to that later. So I need to mention the travellers. We have guests who've travelled as far as, let me see if I can read it. Macclesfield. Give me a shout if you're from Macclesfield. Well, that's mainly Mac and Margaret. Mac and Margaret, thank you very much for looking after Megan when she was at uni. You did a fantastic job and we're really, really grateful. But we've also got people who've crossed many oceans. We have guests from Abu Dhabi, where the Flintstones live. Make up your own jokes. And from New Zealand, give us a shout. And Australia. G'day. How's it going, mate? Give us a shout. Well, those from Australia and New Zealand are Meg's relatives, mainly on my side, which just goes to show how far my family will travel for a free lunch. Seriously, though, thank you very, very much for making the journey. Meg, I'm so proud to be your father, and that's something I don't actually say often enough. Meg, I cried the day you were born. I cried. Partly because I was at the messy end. Yep, I should have taken that bit out. Don't mention blood or poo, messy end. But actually, seriously, mostly I cried because I knew you would turn me into a better person. And you have. You're courageous, bold, resourceful, steadfast, and tenacious. You never give up. And you have great resilience. I really love how you stand up for what you believe in. Which brings us on to FOMO. Meg has always had FOMO, and for old people like me, who didn't realise what that meant, fear of missing out, which I'm sure most of you knew anyway. As a baby, she would shake her head in the cot like this, side to side, to try and stay awake so she didn't miss anything, creating a very distinctive and beautiful bald spot, which you couldn't miss, actually. But I think that's gone now. Well, I hope it has. As a toddler in Portugal, she was so excited after a day out when we got changed and went out in the evenings. That was amazing, and that was very exciting. That FOMO followed her to uni, where she joined every club, some involving cheese, I believe. She once rang from one of the social clubs with glass in her foot. I think she was dancing and stepped on some glass. What should I do, she said. And Barbara said, well, go to hospital. So an hour later, we assumed that she was in the ward. Hello, darling. Are you home? In a ward? Nope. Or she was back at home? Nope. Barbara rang and see how she was doing, but she was back at the party, dancing with a bandaged foot. So it's no surprise that we're not having just a wedding day, but a wedding weekend. I must apologise for some of her first vocabulary. Her first words, very good, were da, 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 very pleasing for me. Well, we often used to forget things and rush out, and must just say we did swear a little bit as a family. Let's just say Megan's favourite phrase became, oh, lollocks. Lollocks, Daddy. And I'll leave you to translate that one. I also owe Megan a great big apology, public apology. She became an influencer before those influencers, or influencers, as some people say, I'll miss that bit out, were a thing. I was directing a government film about disability and needed a child to use a wheelie walker. And to get permission to find a child with a disability and a wheelie walker is quite hard. But we managed to find a wheelie walker, and Megan was to act the disabled child. She was limping around the park convincingly enough with her friends. But being a resourceful director, I thought, well, we could do that a little bit better. So being a bit mean, I actually put a conker in her shoe, and the poor girl spent the whole afternoon hobbling around the park looking suitably forlorn. When it aired nationally, the Minister for Health's PA rang and said, that little girl was, Prince Charles now, that little girl was so brave. I hope she's getting all the services she needs. To which I sort of just said, yes, I think everything's fine there. So Megan, thank you for your early contribution to British healthcare. The woman you've become, Megan, is fantastic. Watching you grow into this determined, self-assured woman has been the joy of my life. You have immense integrity. You're never afraid to challenge, often me, which I definitely deserve. So please don't stop doing that. You stand up for the vulnerable and your beliefs, and you are the mother hen, making sure everyone is included and that everyone gets home safely, no matter how inebriated they are. And I witnessed that quite a lot firsthand at the engagement party, but we won't go into that. Today, seeing you in that dress, wow. And to quote that Get You Off to Sleep song that we used to sing by the Shy Lights, have you seen her? You look stunning. But that brings us on to the groom, your husband. Wow, I have to get used to saying that, Meg. So we tried very, very hard to get rid of Jay, but he is a persistent man. When we first met him, Meg warned us, there's something I need to tell you about Jay. Intrigued. What? He's a Manchester City fan. So we won't mention the FA Cup or Chelsea. But despite having the disability of being a Manchester City fan, he was determined to make a good impression. So I'd like to take you back to Christmas 2016. And that was the litmus test. That was the test. They just landed in Australia. And Megan, they went to bed for a couple of hours. And Megan was incredibly ill in the bed. Let's just say we needed to change the sheets. I should have redacted that one as well. I'll take that one out. Don't mention poo in the bed. Okay. But Jay, being the ultimate gentleman, came downstairs and ate 1, 2, 3 helpings of Barbara's delicious bolognese. Now, we weren't sure whether that was being polite, being social, or just that he was very starving, very, very hungry. So the next day, being on the Sunshine Coast, we said, okay, let's go over to Noosa, where you can learn to surf. Jay was up for it. I helped Jay get started, and he was doing okay on his board, so I asked him to stay put, and I'll run in and get my board. When I came back, just a few minutes later, it was a case of Jay. Within minutes, a rip current had taken Jay, drifting out, crossed to the horizon on his way to New Zealand, bobbing up and down, trying to look confident, looking pretty cool, really, considering where he was. And thankfully, Matty paddled out and saved him. A bit later on, Jay said, Nige, I don't think surfing's my thing. Some 18 months ago for his 30th birthday, we bought him a skydiving voucher. He still hasn't used that. I think he's on to us, Meg. But in all seriousness, Jay, you've been a rock. This is a very special day for you, and I'm not talking about Manchester City and the FA Cup, but very special day for all of us. When Barbara was very sick, you and Megan were constantly there. So Jay, thank you for loving my precious daughter, I'll cry, the way she deserves to be loved. Bev, Steve, thank you for producing such a caring man. And for Jay, thank you for being the only person who laughs at my jokes. So welcome to the family. So just to close now, my advice about marriage is quite simple. Marriage is forgiving and marriage is forgiving. Megan, I used to sing this song to you before you were born. I knew I loved you before I met you. I think it's by Savage Garden. I loved you then. I loved you when I first held you. But seeing you today with Jay, that love is deeper than I ever thought possible. So to close, I'd like to use as before the family tradition. When I was a child, when we were children, actually all of us were in the car, and a teacher walked past, and we begged our mother, your grandma, Peggy, not to say anything. But my mother leaned out the window and shouted at the top of her voice, and my family will back me up here. What did she shout? Every happiness, much to our family's embarrassment. But it's been our good luck shout ever since. So please, everyone, stand and raise your glasses. I'll say the bride and groom, count to 3, and then we can shout as loud as we can. Every happiness. Are you ready? To the bride and groom. 1, 2, 3. Every happiness. The end. Bit too long.